What is going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're going to be kicking off part 1 of a 2-part series. That series is going to be what to sell, and part 1 is going to be about accessories only. In this video, I'm going to be showing you whether you are early game, mid game, all the way to end game, what you should be keeping as far as rings, necklaces, and then finally banners. So with that being said, let's start with rings and jump right into it. Alright guys, so before we get into the ring, there's one very important thing you guys need to know. Always make sure you have on the top of your head all of the champions you have and some of the specific gear you do need for these champions. One of the biggest mistakes I see players making constantly when determining whether or not they should be keeping gear or not is they're hoarding gear. They're very low on silver all of the time. Silver is definitely a separate issue, but the fact that they're hoarding gear, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And when I do account takeover, then they think to themselves, how are you cleansing so quickly? How do you know what to keep, what to sell? And it's pretty much based off some very simple rules. I will always go into the account, look at the champions the player has, and pretty much from there gauge what they need. If a crucial champion is missing a ring, that's going to be priority number 1 when I am farming and looking for a specific piece. While it's not a bad option to save accessories for champions you don't currently have, it's definitely a gamble, especially if you aren't spending a lot of money. It's going to put you further behind, and it's better to say, man, I wish I never sold that ring, than to say, I have too many rings, don't know what to sell, and have no silver. So with that being said, let's start with HP, attack, and defense on the ring. The first thing you want to make sure is you always have HP percent on an HP ring, attack percent on an attack ring, and defense percent on a defense ring. Now as far as HP goes, one thing that meshes very well with HP is going to be defense, and the same is going to be vice versa. If you have a defense ring, HP percent is also going to be king. As far as the attack rings go, on top of attack percent, you're also going to be looking for HP. Now one thing I highly recommend doing when you're going through your gear and you're looking on what to sell, roll everything to +4. If you don't immediately hit the substat that you desire, you're definitely going to want to consider selling that ring right away, cutting your losses, and not really gambling anymore on that piece. I've seen many players say, well, it can roll pretty good, especially if it's a legendary piece 3 more times in that substat. That is more of a whale game as far as for gambling goes. If you really want to be efficient, you can take it all the way up to 8, but I highly recommend if you have a piece at +8 and it didn't roll what you wanted to, don't try to take it to 16 hoping for that double roll, because the penalty can far outweigh the benefit of that decision. So one clear thing that I can definitely say for players who are early game, mid game, and end game, if you have double flat stats on a rare piece or double flat stats on a epic piece, it's more likely than not going to be instantly sold. If you are someone who spends a lot of money, you can definitely chance it and gamble and roll it to +4 just to see if you'll get that initial roll in the percentage you want. However, it's a really easy sell in my opinion if you are seeing at least 2 flat stats on a ring. So as far as ring goes, that pretty much covers it. You might be wondering how many stars should I be looking at. If you're early game, the stars really don't matter. 4-star, 5-star is perfectly fine. If you're mid game, once again, 4-star, 5-star, or 6-star. And if you're end game, you really want to aim for only 6-star pieces. Not everyone is going to be farming 24/7, so you're going to have to really weigh the options based on your account to what you see in front of you and say, is it worth me keeping this 5-star piece, or should I just continue farming, wait for that 6-star piece that is going to be significantly better, and just full invest when I do get the right piece. The next thing we're going to be talking about are neck pieces. Now neck pieces are kind of an interesting subject. So for early game and mid game, you pretty much want to keep every single type of gear, including an attack neck. Attack neck has very low value outside of the mid game, and you won't really see that again unless you're probably one of 20 players in this game who actually can use an attack neck with 4 or 3 crit damage substat rolls. This requires you hitting a 7,000 attack threshold and a 300% crit damage threshold on the same champion, or you would even consider running an attack neck on an endgame champion. But like I mentioned, finding attack on early game champions is a lot harder than it is on endgame, so you might want to skip going for that crit damage, aim for attack on the neck piece and crit damage substat rolls. If for any reason you are confused on what you should be building as far as crit damage or attack, I do have a video that I did release basically showing you the formula that you can input into a calculator that lets you weigh the options for yourself so you know for sure which one is going to be best for you. So in my opinion, the neck slot is going to be the hardest one to determine what to sell out of the neck, ring, and banner. The reason why the neck's so difficult is for most champions you want to aim for accuracy. However, not all champions do require accuracy. This is where you have to really weigh your options, and if you have a damage dealing champion who scales off of attack, obviously the best choice for you is going to be crit damage with flat attack, getting as many rolls into flat attack as possible. The same thing is going to apply that we did talk about for the ring, where if you get too many crit damage necklaces all with flat attack, you're going to be quickly overwhelmed, and you're also going to very quickly fill up your storage, and it's just going to be a mess. All of that silver that you can't instantly have, you're just not too sure what to do. So what I would recommend doing is rolling it to 4 if you get rolls that go into accuracy, HP, or defense. When you're solely focused on attack, you can definitely choose to get rid of that instantly. Now another thing to keep in mind, briefly moving away from attack, if you do have an HP damage dealer or a defense based damage dealer, sometimes it's better to have a defense neck with crit damage in the substat role. It's much more common than attack champions. So once again, most of this applies to early game. If you are mid game or end game, it's fairly safe to say that you're going to be selling every single attack neck that you do get. Now one very important thing to know is don't get overexcited about legendary items. A lot of players that I've seen get legendary items, they're kind of hoarding it and not rolling it up just yet. And they rolled it up once, it rolls a bad roll, and they kind of keep going through this cycle of going to plus 8, plus 12, and they're saying in their head, this is a legendary item, and at this point I've invested in it, so I'm just going to use it. You really want to stop yourself after that initial 4 roll and think to yourself, can I afford to keep rolling this up? This is a legendary item, it is going to be very high quality if I do get 3 rolls that are very beneficial to me, but is that gamble going to be worth it for you based on the amount of silver that you actually do have? So now that we kind of talked about crit damage and attack, the next 2 things to talk about are HP and defense based neck pieces. Now for most champions, like I said before, accuracy is very strong as far as getting it for that next slot, so you're going to want to focus on accuracy on as many pieces as you can, but it will depend on the roster you currently have, so that's also something to always keep in the back of your head like I mentioned earlier. Outside of accuracy, the obvious best stat for an HP necklace is going to be defense. In defense necklace, the best stat is going to be flat HP. And once again, the basic rule of thumb, roll it to 4 if you don't get the stat you're looking for in that first 4 roll. You can keep it in case you have nothing else available to you. However, I would recommend selling it and waiting until you farm more gear to get that right piece, because as we all know, it is expensive to swap gear off of champions. Now you can destroy it, however, it's much better to get that initial silver back from that level 4 sell than it is to just destroy the gear overall. The next thing we're going to be talking about is going to be banners. Now banners is the only piece on the accessories that actually do have speed on them, so you have to kind of keep this in mind when looking for banners. Pretty much every banner that has speed on it I would recommend keeping, and you can get into kind of a struggle with this. So one good way to remedy this is make sure you only have enough speed pieces per the amount of champions you have. For example, if you have 3 solid demon spawn champions and you have 12 or more banners with speed on it and they're already rolled up, you definitely made a mistake in what you wanted to keep, because now you're planning ahead on pulling champions that are going to gain benefit from those banners. What I would recommend first is obviously rolling up those pieces of gear. If they didn't roll once or twice into speed, then either selling it or just leaving it at that base level, and while it is still taking up space, you haven't fully invested in it, so you're not wasting a ton of silver. Now the same thing's going to apply that I did mention with rings, also to the banners. If you have a banner that has attack percent and you have flat HP and resistance, that's an easy sell. So pretty much the rule of thumb when I go through things is I head straight to the filter, I search the gear, let's say an attack banner, and the first thing I do is I search for flat HP and flat defense in the substats, and if it's not an epic or legendary piece, I instantly sell it. If it is epic or legendary, I roll it to +4. If it doesn't hit that speed substat, which is usually the one I'm looking for, I instantly sell it after that. Same thing can be applied with HP, searching for flat attack and defense, as well as defense banner, searching for flat attack as well as flat HP. Accuracy banners and resistance banners obviously are going to be the anomaly in this situation. While you are mainly focused on speed, you do also have to keep in mind what champion this would actually benefit. Then you would have to match the stat that they scale off of with the percentage. So if you took a champion like Razin and you wanted an accuracy banner, the 2 main stats you would be focused on are defense percent and speed. Now while you are gearing up, not everyone's going to have access to the amazing stats that you can get once you can farm the later stages of the dungeons, so it's definitely fine to settle for speed and HP. However, I highly recommend using the banner as a quality source of speed so that alleviates a lot of pressure off of your champion when gearing them when you do get to the main artifact pieces for that champion. Hopefully, after this rundown of the 3 accessories that you can get from the spider dungeon as far as accessories go, this gives you a better idea on how you can gear your champions and what you can actually sell right away or after rolling to +4 to make sure you have a little bit more silver in your pocket overall. Now there is one thing that we have to talk about, and that is the 3v3 wards from the BAZAAR. If you are getting pieces of refresh, in my opinion, the stats don't matter as much because of how strong the actual refresh effect is. If you're not familiar with this, what it does is it has a 5% chance of completely avoiding putting your skill on cooldown. Now that is very strong. While the percentage is low, you can get multiple pieces, which is why I do recommend, even if you don't get any desirable stats on it, you definitely keep it just in case, even if you don't roll it up for that ideal champion, in case you do get that champion down the line, because while you can farm in Spider, you cannot farm these pieces from the BAZAAR. It is going to be a pretty much daily reset on when you can buy it. Not everyone can buy it every single day, so these pieces are in fact going to be a bit more rare than your average Spider pieces. Another piece that can be beneficial to you is going to be the cleansing gear. Personally, I have no use for it on my account. I can't really figure out where it would be useful because it is a percentage to cleanse your champion, and usually when you have a cleanser you want it to be 100%. So in my opinion, I would sell all of it. However, it's definitely up to you as the player. If you get solid stats on it, it's definitely a nice added bonus if you can fit it in with any champions that you currently have in your roster on your account. Alright guys, that's going to conclude my video on part 1 of what to sell for your accessories on your account. Let me know what you think. Do you have any additional comments you would like to add? Something you may have done that I haven't mentioned in this video for how you sort your artifacts and sell them so you're never hoarding gear? Drop me a comment, let me know. As always guys, if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell so you're notified when I do drop my next video, and I will see you all in my next upload.